desire. Well, I'm a man on fire.
I don't think so.
Maybe some just other space creatures are listening.
Yeah.
And you're just excluding a whole portion of your listeners, Matt.
That's true, actually, because it's more likely that there are people on other planets listening to our radio waves than people on planet Earth.
Well, I would be glad.
That's sad. But
All right, welcome to the Slackline, humans. You are here with the boss.
The boss is coming.
That's a made-up dumb fairy tale name, you.
And JWoww.
Wow.
Again, I'm swapping those by accident.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, sorry about that.
It's okay.
I'm so used to doing it for the single episodes.
You are used to being solo now, huh?
Yeah, well,
just
it's okay.
after a couple of weeks and look
Yeah,
at
I've
you.
gone
It's all about you, huh?
Yeah, that's right. The quote of the day Slackline is daily, and that's just with me talking for like 20 minutes or whatever. But we are back here. We are into our first episode in 2018, although we released one from last week. But that
Happy
was
New Year.
yeah, that was recorded pre. You want something to say there, Boris?
All right, maybe
All right.
not.
Yeah, so JWoww and the boss here, and we have Bryce Jorger in the house.
hello,
Bryce,
hello.
what's going on today?
Not too much. Just hanging out.
Happy New Year to you.
Boris is eyeing my bun.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us about your New Year, about yourself? Actually, start with yourself.
Start with myself. I am Bryce.
Nice.
I'm just got out of Vancouver Film School not too long ago, like these gentlemen before me, and just working on film sets, trying to produce some stuff, trying to get some stuff off the ground. But it's a slow process as it goes when you first start out. So
You were back in Alberta for. You're from Alberta. You were back.
I'm from
there
Alberta.
for
Yeah, I
the
haven't been
holidays?
back.
Oh,
I haven't
no?
been back for a while.
I thought you were there over the holiday break.
No, luckily I was here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my dad just moved out here recently, so
Oh,
I was
okay.
able to, my wife and I spent time with him there, and yeah, so
You're eyeing those sausage buns. Help yourself,
This is
man.
a good choice. This is an excellent choice.
Oh, you were just. I didn't know that you had one yourself in your hand. You were eyeballing what JWoww was tearing up there. Sorry, I interrupted you. Your dad's moved to town.
Yeah, so he just moved out to Agassiz. So, anyways, he opened up a B&B.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, he's out in Agassiz. I don't even remember the name to advertise it on here. But it's a beautiful location, just outside Agassiz on the number 7 highway. And so my wife and I went out there and stayed the night over there. Had all the Christmas morning and all the other stuff, and then had an evening with all the rest of my family, my side of the family, in Mission, which is where most of them live. So.
You were telling us about some sweet video game thing.
I
that you
was.
discovered.
So I do regret to say I spend a lot of time
It's okay.
in my spare time playing a lot of video games here.
No worries.
During Christmas, I guess the whole city shuts down for work for film. So about 3.5 weeks here, I've been without work because the whole system shuts down. Everybody goes back to California, I guess. So anyways, I've been playing a game, Fallout 4, the wonderful game. Anyways, I've been playing this on this, what might be familiar to some, but is totally new to me, is GeForce, NVIDIA's GeForce Now, which essentially is like an online streaming service for video games. Now, it's only in its beta form, available for Mac users only, from what I understand. But you own the game on Steam, which is an application account that you can play online games whenever. An online store, I suppose. You play them through Steam on a server that's based somewhere else, somewhere in the States, I presume. and you can control it, and they live stream you whatever you're playing. So technically, you're not even playing on your own computer. You're playing on somebody else's computer, miles and miles away on a supercomputer, and you get streamed to you the highest definition, whatever.
Like the
resolution.
playback.
Yeah, you
of
get the
what you're
playback,
playing.
and it's instant playback, right? It's instant. So.
Man, that's so fucking nuts.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
It's so cool. So now on my MacBook Pro, that would barely even be able to handle the minimum usage. I can play maximum resolution, all these things on my little MacBook
Yeah.
at home, and I
Yeah.
don't have to worry about taking up. Oh, he's been drew on me. I don't even have to be taking up any content on my computer.
Yeah.
So, which is really nice. This is the benefit of it as well.
Do you think, like, I just had this thought. Do you think that this would extend to, like, film editing?
That's very interesting.
I don't see why not, right?
The only thing is that you would have to have the media, right, to work with.
Yeah.
Maybe if you have the media in your hard drive, and then you use just the computer power to do so. I don't know.
That's an interesting thought.
It would
No,
almost have
yeah,
to
I don't
be-
know.
It would almost have to be whoever owns the content, such as like the producers, have a server set up in their account, and other editors all the way around the world. Oh, Boris is making a fuss. Other editors around the world would have to stream into their server or something like that. Would have to stream into their, whatever it is, their computer. And that way, then the editors would be able to, I guess, play around on that server that they have set up, and they'd be able to manipulate whatever's in there. But whatever gets saves right to the producers or the headquarters of that production, and they'd be able to edit, wirelessly everywhere around the world. They could do it on their MacBook.
That's about time for that to happen, to be honest. Like,
Yeah?
we have fast
I
internet.
mean, my biggest
We have iCloud. We have, like all these things that you can actually store your own stuff away. Anyways, I want to shift a little bit radically,
Okay.
just to talk about Bryce a little bit. Bryce,
Sure.
you're known, at least for over our entire class, to have one of the most amazing laughs ever.
yes.
The Joker.
The Joker. Was it always like that, or like
It was
it
actually
was like one day you had too much crack and that has started to?
Called it high school for a reason, right? No, it's actually really funny. It used to be a huge point of insecurity for me, and probably until I came to VFS, where people actually almost congratulated me for having it. But I remember in junior high school, kids used to make fun of me for laughing and the way I laugh and whatever, and just as you do as kids, they don't know
Kids
how
are
to,
assholes.
yeah, it just happens, right? I've been watching this 13 Reasons
Why?
Why.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that?
I know.
Yeah.
Now, it's such an interesting show because I feel like it really depicts high school life in such an honest, real way.
Oh, so it's
of how-
very depressing.
It's super depressing. I also think that this Hannah Baker girl, I don't know. I feel like it's unfortunate the situation that she went through. However, I don't think that it's appropriate that she goes and vandalizes other people's lives with her manipulation and things. But anyways, that's beside the fact. But I think it's very interesting. Anyways, sorry.
But you were
going back,
bullied.
yeah.
But you were bullied by
Bullied,
your.
quote unquote bullied. I was
Made fun of a little bit.
I was made fun of a little bit. I don't even call it bullying. I'd say when I was a kid I'd call it bullying, but really in hindsight it's like kids were just being kids.
Yeah, but I mean, that's obviously it affected you into adulthood, right? And still probably does even like.
Oh, I'm sure.
So.
But
I
you
mean,
just kept laughing.
But I just kept laughing,
yeah, just
man.
keep laughing.
Just keep laughing.
Just
Maybe
keep
maybe
laughing.
that's good. That could be the title of your book when you're 60.
Absolutely.
Just keep laughing.
Just keep laughing.
With Bryce Jorger.
I like that.
With
I like
Bryce
that.
Jorger.
It makes sense. What about you, JWoww? You had an interesting break as well.
Well, interesting, yeah.
Tell us about your time away.
Well, it's stressful a little bit, but
Yeah, I
Productive.
hesitate to call it a break.
yeah, it's not a it wasn't a break for sure, but it was interesting. I
You were working on a camper, right?
yeah. my girlfriend bought a camper with the intent to live in it, and we went all the way to buy this camper in Clearwater in BC. It's a city in BC, 500 kilometers from here. And we brought the thing. It was running fine. It had a couple of issues when we bought it. Actually, it started when we bought it because the gas tank was leaking, and we just realized when we were out of the guy that sold it to us.
Yeah.
Luckily, it has 2 tanks, so we just have to use the one that doesn't leak.
Oh my goodness.
Anyways, we found that out. But it rained 500 kilometers fine. We got into the city and we needed to do some renovation on the RV. It's an old RV. It's a 40-year-old RV.
Oh yeah.
She did
Breaking
pay,
Bad style.
but she did pay a good price on it. Anyways, we did to do some renovation. I become the official plumber. I've never done plumbery.
You're always one of those handymans, though. Too,
I don't know, man. Maybe it's just the mustache.
JWoww gives his honest effort to everything.
He does. He
And
certainly
that's
does.
and so thus he accomplishes everything because he's given it his all.
He
There's
puts
no
the-
there's
he
no
puts his
there's
effort
no
in,
80% in JWoww's
That's
vocabulary.
Oh, thank you guys for your compliments. I appreciate that. Anyways, we got the camper. We my landlord luckily was so nice of him letting us use his driveway for a couple of weeks. It became actually 3 weeks. He's away. He's on a trip, so we were there alone and working on the RV. Doing the plumbery, you find out that every piece of crap was cracked, and all the plumbery had to be replaced. And everything leaked when you turn on the water pump, just like just flash water everywhere. Okay, well, if that wasn't enough, we finished doing that, and our plan was like to have a couple of friends, around 10 friends over, to celebrate New Year's in the RV. When
Sure.
it would all be done.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
that
So
didn't happen.
everything was almost done.
Yeah.
But the RV was pretty, man. Claire had my girlfriend painted all the RV.
Nice.
She did the insulation. I did the
Nice.
plumbery.
Nice.
Like replaced the bulbs for LED bulbs that consume less. Like all the 9 yards.
Mm-hmm.
And by the night of the New Year's, we needed to put a little bit of propane because we were going to cook some stuff.
Sure.
And we were already using the propane for the
Right.
furnace. We were using the propane for cooking. We were using it.
Right.
And we had fill up once and no problem. And this time we were just going away to fill up. And after that, we're just going to spend the New Year's with our friends in Spanish Bank, a little beach around here. And we tried to put the propane in the gas station, but actually who has to do that is the guy in the propane station, right? You
Right.
can't do it yourself. So the guy comes, he tries, it's stiffy, he couldn't make it. He says, "Oh, it's very hard to do it," and we're like, "That's bullshit, man. Like he's done that before." This guy is just like, and he does it again, and a little bit of propane comes off, and then he shut us. Said, "You guys have a problem with valve." We're like, "Fuck, that's bullshit, man. That's like." It was fine the other time that we just came in the same gas station. It was just another guy doing that. See, it's gonna be fine. All right. So the guy goes back inside of the shop of the gas station, and we stubbornly said, "No, we're gonna do it." So I told the guy, "Hey, we're gonna do it. Don't worry. I know what the problem is. Of course, I know everything about propane.
Of course
now.
you do. Yeah. You're the expert, of course.
I'm the propane master now." And the guy said, "Okay, but use gloves." So, okay, just give me the fucking gloves. I'm gonna wear gloves, blah, blah, blah. And got to Claire, and Claire just hooks up the thing. She's much braver than me, by the way. Just
Good.
like she totally wears the pants.
Yeah.
And so she's doing this stuff, and like we put 35 liters of propane, all good. That's what we wanted. And she tries to take it off, and when she turn off the knob to take off the propane, all 35 liters of propane just goes away into atmosphere.
Oh my
And she's in the middle of the propane, and I'm trying to do the propane. Get the gloves with the guy, man, and the gloves are stuck. I got all burned because the propane is very cold. I got all burned from the propane. The gloves are so cold that they are stuck. They got stuck into the RV, man, into the valve. Like I couldn't remove, and all that smell and all the propane in there. And Claire looked at me. She said, "Call 911."
Yeah.
So all of a sudden we have 2 fireman trucks.
Yeah, fire trucks coming over.
Send firemen around. And just like sucking the air. That was our New Year's night.
Oh wow!
Oh,
so
yeah.
all those other
Yeah.
10 people you had to cancel.
You almost had your own fireworks there
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
man.
buddy.
Yeah, for sure,
Oh
man.
man, could you imagine?
at a
So-
gas station.
No.
too.
If someone just passed smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
If,
Dude.
if you banged your keys and they
Dude.
sparked or ignited in any way, like
So we shut off the gas station.
Just in Vancouver.
Yeah. Yeah. And the fireman told us not to use the RV for the night because
you have to
it
air
could
it
be
out.
leaking and everything and so
crazy.
all our gas we just spent New Year's in one of the guest little room in the
Yeah.
basement.
Oh my gosh, Joe,
Oh,
that's
man.
crazy.
Yeah, man, and if it's not enough, man, the next day, Claire goes to get the RV, and we have the RV in hands, and it's all good. It's not leaking. It's just
Yeah.
coming back. I have all my hands fucked up with
Yeah, I was gonna ask you.
bleeding
I was
and
gonna
stuff.
ask you
Yeah,
when I
that's
saw it earlier.
propane, man.
Crazy.
It's
So I
science.
stay home, and Claire goes walking to the to get the RV. She gets the RV. She comes back to my homestay, and we are so fucking tired, man. Like stress and everything. She's backing up the RV to put in the driveway back, and she hits my landlord cars.
No.
Dude.
Oh
I swear to
man.
God, I was just telling the guys.
Worst to worst.
I sit on the floor and start crying like a kid. I just,
Totally.
like,
Oh,
I
man.
can't do it anything anymore. Why?
I
It's
know.
1st of January.
I know.
Come start New Year's again. Anyways, I sent an email to my landlord. He didn't answer yet, but no, he knows everything about it. It was an accident, and it could have happened with. And it was just.
Was
like
there much damage?
No, it was just like the hood. And some
Yeah.
stuff. So we can just like do that again. The thing is that now there are V's done. We changed the valve.
Yeah.
So no leaks anymore from propane.
Oh, that's good.
And Claire now is living on the RV,
Okay.
and it's been cool, man. Like we've been parking just around like the commercial area, just parking and leaving.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Interesting.
you guys.
Cool. All right.
What a crazy story.
What about
dude.
you?
Yeah,
What
that was
about you,
interesting.
Matt?
Yeah,
You've been to Hawaii.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
heard about to
the-
do some researches, right?
Yeah, I did some beach
Research
research in Oahu
Yeah.
over the Christmas break with my dad and my brothers, and that was a lot of fun. Actually, there was a couple interesting things that happened while we were there. One is there was some residual waves that were happening that were left over from the tsunami in Japan, like a year and a half ago or whatever that was.
Really?
And so they were just coming in.
What?
Yeah, they're not
a year
like
and a half ago.
yeah.
Made it
I
all the
mean,
way
like
across the
yeah,
sea finally.
yeah. And they're hitting the shore, and they're like, we're at the surf shop, and this guy that's been there for like 20 years is like, yeah, we've never seen waves like this come into that place. They're gonna have to like shut down that thing. They're gonna have to shut down this bridge and these roads. And,
Wow.
there was a surf competition happening.
Oh
while we
yeah,
were there.
were the surfers able to?
For the first 2-3 days that we were there, they weren't able to go out because it was too rough. And there was a
the surfer's dream to go out there though.
well, yes and no. Like from a competition standpoint, no,
Okay.
because the competition is all like they want these perfect curling waves. It's all
Sure.
about how long you can stay in this tube.
Right.
But a beach that was a few miles away from the professional beach, there was this kind of cove where these huge fucking waves were coming in, like 30-foot swells.
Wow.
And most people, like, there were lifeguards on the beach, like, don't let your kids near the water. They will get sucked up and they will fucking die.
Yeah.
Like, this is what they're saying, like, in that tone.
That's nuts.
On the beach. Just like, watch your kids. They will get taken by the water. They will drown. They will be dead. Make sure you watch your kids. Keep away from that part of the beach.
Wow.
Hey, you idiots over there. Yeah, away from that part of the beach. Your kids will die. Like, I'm serious. Like, they're like yelling at people on the beach like that. It's a megaphone.
With the red hat
Yeah,
over there.
yeah. And
Get
people that
away.
are in the water that like are getting torn away by the riptide and stuff, they're like, just turn towards the beach and swim. Yes, to your left. To your left. Keep turning to your left and swim. Oh, man, you could tell they just deal with it all day, right?
Yeah.
But these were, like, especially crazy waves. And there were, like, of course, there were, like, some crazy assholes that were out there, like, I'm going to go ride this fucking 40-foot wave and see if I can't survive it, I guess.
I know.
They were out there trying, man. There's at least 3 or 4 people that were out, a couple hundred yards offshore going for it.
Totally.
But the surf competition, the way that the waves break, it's like this beach is like, these waves are 20 yards off the beach. And so you get a great view of these guys hitting these like 10, 14-foot waves that curl over, and they just fucking rip through them. Like, man, they must be getting so fast. I've never seen surfing live like that. I've barely ever watched surfing, like, in general.
Yeah.
But it was happening while we were there, and so we're like, well, let's go
Take a
check this
look.
out. And it was rad, man.
That is cool.
The whole you don't have to pay. The whole like, you just go sit on the beach.
How are they gonna monitor?
Yeah,
that, I
exactly.
guess,
Well,
right?
they could,
It's a
man. Like, they
public beach.
could
I guess
rope
so.
off and like
Sure.
take people's tickets, because it's not like you're gonna go around into
To
the
get
water
prime,
and come
to
back.
get prime viewing or whatever you can.
Yeah, they could. But like even like the
didn't.
athletes, the surfers, they all just have little tents behind everybody that they just go hang
Sure.
out in.
Right.
Were they using like jet skis to pull the surfers inside the
Um,
waves? Sometimes
no,
they do that, right?
no.
Really?
Yeah.
They don't just make them paddle all the way out there.
No,
there's
they were
some-
close.
sometimes
The
they
waves,
use
like I
jet
said,
skis.
they're like 20 yards offshore, so
Wow.
they didn't need the.
I don't know anything about this stuff.
Yeah, they didn't need the
the
jet skis, but they did have jet skis out there with like camera people. They had a drone that was up there. They have people that just like float in the water with helmet cams on, and they just
What?
float there.
They just float. There's
And
like little
man,
bobs.
they miss them by no more than like
Meters.
if that 6
Well,
inches, 7 inches. They're
What?
it must
That's
be close.
stupid.
Like
Why you have someone using the helmet?
Because they
and
want to get
not-
the best footage.
Well, you have drones now. They should have something.
But they
that
want it in
goes
the
into
water.
sea
They want it in the
without
water.
Yeah, that's
someone-
true.
Without
That is
someone
true.
having to wear a fucking
actually, you
helmet.
know what I did see too is a guy not at the surf competition, just surfing elsewhere. He had a GoPro in his mouth.
Yeah, I've seen guys do that.
Oh,
I've seen
that's
that on
that's
like
called
Instagram and stuff, too.
endoscopy.
What's that?
Shit. When you go to the doctor, you can do
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, buddy.
Gotta cut the trachea, get the GoPro in there.
Oh, yeah. GoPros go everywhere.
Yeah,
Totally
but
cool.
Hawaii is beautiful, man. Hawaii is
Cool.
super
Have
cool.
you ever been there? Or?
I had when I was like I think 12 or 13,
Oh, yeah.
but going back now. You know what? There's an interesting story too about drug prohibition mixed in here, because we were there. We're on the North Shore in Oahu. This is like where surfers hang out and live and smoke weed constantly. And this
Sure.
is like where
They smoke
weed
weed?
is. Like
Right.
it grows here. And so I hadn't smoked at all the whole time we were there. Like 10 days I was clean, which was it was great. But the last night came around, and my dad had kind of hinted at it a couple times.
Like he wants to go.
Yeah, like he was like, I'm kind of surprised. We were making jokes about weed.
Sure.
You know, we were driving around the farmers' fields, and we're like,
Yeah,
oh, there's
yeah.
probably weed out there or whatever. And my dad had said like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised you guys haven't tried to like procure
Smuggle
some.
something.
Yeah.
Whatever,
Not smuggle some, but just procure some. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well,
about
that's handy,
town.
Yeah, sure.
I asked these.
But he knows that you.
Yeah, he knows I smoke. I asked these kids that were in the house next to us, and they didn't end up coming through. But, anyways, on the last night, we were
Now you
sitting
tried.
on this deck looking over the beach, and I'm like, you know what? Like, this is Hawaii. It's the last night. I'm with my brother and my dad, or my brothers and my dad. And, you know, I've never smoked weed with my dad. You know, he was always pretty straight-laced guy growing up and stuff. And so, you know, I was like, oh, let's have this type of night. So my dad's having a nap, and I tell my brothers, like, I'm going to go into town. I'm going to see if I can get some bud. And they're like, okay, cool. So I go in, and there's a pipe shop, like a weed pipe shop there, and town is like 10-minute drive away. And I walk in, and I'm like, hey, so I'm actually just trying to get some weed to the guy. And he's like, yeah. And he's like, yeah, I can't really exactly tell you where to get it. But, you know, if you just kind of walk the beach, or if you just go to like a bar and have a drink at the bar and say you're looking for weed, like somebody will have some.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that sounds fair enough. And I've never really been like that with weed, like unless my buddies have it or unless I have it, like I'm probably not going out asking random people for it. But like this is the time that I tried it. So I kind of just wander around the beach and ask people, you know, a few older people, a few like teenagers and stuff like that. Everybody's response is, no, I wish. And yeah, I go talk to these guys that look like they're homeless dudes that live on the beach.
Just beach bums.
Yeah, they just like have tents set up there and stuff.
Sure.
This little
That's a
community.
huge
Yeah.
thing in Hawaii.
I
now.
mean, I'm kind of sitting there like, why wouldn't you? You know.
I guess to a degree, yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I
Little
asked
bit of
them.
I like
prejudice
myself a
there.
shower though.
Yeah. I asked those guys and they don't have any, and I'm like, okay, whatever. So I'm going back to my car and I see
You
these.
loser.
Yeah. Fuck you. And I see these guys that are just hanging out in their front yard, and they're a little rough looking guys. Like they're on the lower end of the economic spectrum.
Sure.
And I just kind of lean over the fence, and I'm like, hey,
Any bud?
any bud? I'm looking to get a little bud, and they like kind of look at each other and look at me like, are you a cop? And I'm like, well, I'm dressed like I have like aviator type sunglasses on, and like you know I'm dressed relatively nice, and I'm you know kind of clean shaven and stuff, and so I can understand why they're kind of freaked out about it. I'm like, no, I'm a Canadian tourist and just trying to get a little bud for me and my brothers, and he's like, oh, okay, well, I know a guy. He's just like a few minutes away. Like you give me $20, I'll give you a gram. And I was like, I'll come meet you with your guy. And he's like, well, you could just give me the $20 and I'll bring it back. And I was like,
I want to keep my.
yeah, that's not really how that's working. So, he tries to get me to hop on the back of this like shitty moped that he's riding around.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, where are we going? He's like, oh, just over by the flags over there. He points it out. I'm like, I'll just walk over there, man. You rip over there, and I'll meet you over there. It's like, well, okay. And so he goes. I meet him over there in a couple minutes, and he's talking to those dudes that were living on the beach that told me they didn't have any.
Right.
And so I just like kind of sit like on the curb a little ways away, and he comes up to me and he's like, yeah, so we're good. So if you just give me the $20, then I'll go and I'll make the deal for you. And I was like, dude, I want to see like the weed.
I want to make sure it's
Like-
weed, not banana peppers or
He's
something.
like,
rolled up,
You're
whatever,
freaking me out, man. Like, are you sure you're not a cop? I was like, no, man. Here's my like Canadian ID. He's like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, here's my Canadian ID. I just want weed. And he's like, oh, okay. And then he goes back and he comes back and
Sketching
he
him out,
has
bro.
this little gram of weed, and it didn't look like it was cheaping me out or anything
Mhm.
like that. They said it would be, the guy at the pipe store said it would be $20 a gram. So I was like, yeah, whatever. It's cheap.
It's $10 more than.
Yeah, it's more expensive than it is here, but whatever. And so, yeah, I do this deal, and he kind of tries to give me some sob story about him and his girlfriend. I'm like, okay, see you, bud. And
don't care.
I walk away,
I just
and
want the bud.
like as I'm walking away, I'm like, how is that better?
Mm.
How the fuck is that better? Like, that guy didn't give a shit if I was like 12 years old.
Right.
He just cared if I was a cop. And,
I see what you're saying.
And like, I went around to a bunch of different people, all of whom actually want this product, and none of them like can have it except they want it, and I end up having to go and
In this sketchy
yeah,
situation.
in a sketchy situation. If I wasn't more experienced with this type of thing, if I was just like some dad on vacation that was like, you know what, it's North Shore, like I'm gonna go try to find some weed or whatever, well, I would have been robbed for sure. Like, for sure.
Sure.
And so I just don't see how that's a better situation than the people that want it can go into a store and get it. But like that's a
Maybe if you want to go to a paradise island that has weed, the next time you just go to Jamaica.
yeah, that's
Mm.
true. I mean, I wasn't going anywhere specifically for weed. I was just it was just that day. I was like, yeah, let's go. I thought it would be easier, to be honest. Like, I saw this
Yeah,
girl who
that's,
was like maybe like early 20s, all dressed in like tie dye and had a backpack and stuff. I was like, this chick definitely has
She
weed.
definitely got some.
And she
Not for
was like,
you.
no, I'm looking for it. And then I ran into her after I met with that guy.
Did you tell
She
her?
was like, "Did you find some?" And I was like, "Yeah, there's some dudes that sitting in their yard over there." And I don't know if she went over there or not, but
Well,
Yeah, it'd be a little
she
bit more
came
sketch
back.
if she went over there. I think.
yeah,
My doubt is that if she goes there, if she comes back alive.
Yeah.
well, yeah, I imagine, right? Like that is somebody's
what you
kid,
would
and they're
do.
just trying to smoke a plant, and they have to go talk to this like sketchy dude who's gonna try to rob
man,
them.
it's kind of like when you had the fucking prohibition of alcohol too. Right?
Yeah,
Sketch it together, like you have to go through the mobs to get some liquor, right?
yeah, it's true.
I mean,
It's true.
Interesting.
That is the mic test. That's where we get interrupted by that every once in a while, and we have to go back and listen to our last week's episodes. Last week was our first time kind of back from vacation, but it was actually taped before vacation, a while before actually.
that's how the magic works.
Yeah, I mean, no, it was live. It was live.
Sure was.
We were here with Jordan Vasquez and Ken
Oh, I
Dressen.
love that guy.
Yeah, they were talking about Mailman, and
Awesome.
yeah, they did some voice recording here beforehand, just for the trailer and stuff, and
Oh,
then stuck
super.
around for the podcast, and it was good. We chatted about a little U.S. politics and like doomsday theories,
UFOs.
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 Yeah, was there anything that you thought that I don't know? You probably didn't even listen to the episode, did you? You fucking jerk.
No,
No.
I had.
He was dealing with
I was
propane.
dealing with propane.
That's okay. It was taped a while ago. We were all kind of being pretty speculative with most of our stuff, so there's not really much that you can be like, "Hey, that was offside," because I mean, we're just talking about like alien abductions, and
If it's
Well,
real.
it
yeah,
was-
it's offside
Yeah,
from the
when you
get
talk
go.
about U.S. Politics is actually changing every day, right?
True, actually, yeah, you
Speaking
know.
of which.
Speaking of which, I was thinking we were gonna talk about maybe the Oprah Winfrey stuff that's been coming out the last week or so since the
Mm.
Golden Globes. She had a really nice speech there, and everybody's like, "I would vote for Oprah," and Oprah's like, "I might run for president." I thought maybe we could take a break for a little while and then come back with that type of chat.
I'd love that.
I agree.
All right, we'll take a break here on the Slack line. We'll let you guys listen to a little bit of Crooked Spies, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Here we go.
It's a long hard road when you walk alone. God damn, this
everybody? Good?
Yep.
All right, we're back on the slack
Good.
line here. Once again, we are here with Jay Wow
Wow.
and the boss.
The boss is
That's a
coming.
made up dumb fairy tale name, you
And and we're here with Bryce Jorger back from the break.
Howdy.
Is the original pronunciation of your name Jorger?
No, it's Jorger.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Jorger.
Seems
like
like
a
it should be
tiger.
Jorger. Is it like it's got to be like Danish or something?
Yeah,
no?
it's from what I understand, it's German.
Okay.
Is the German background?
Okay.
But I mean, we say it Jorger because I'm Canadian. So
Yeah.
been Canadian for
Being Canadian
two
and all,
generations
you
now,
know.
So,
yeah, so anyways, away from that, we went into the break with a little subject of Oprah Winfrey,
President.
El Presidente. I mean, none of it's confirmed. It's all just speculation.
Oh yeah,
but
total speculation.
yeah, she gave a really nice speech at the Golden Globes. People thought it was great. People have talked about her being president for a while.
Yeah,
actually.
that's something. So I was reading up.
Yeah.
We talked about maybe discussing this
Yeah.
a few days ago, and so of course I took the liberty and started looking other things up.
I
And
appreciate that.
yeah, it was very interesting to see what the online universe had to say about the whole subject. And so lots of people are pro and not and whatever. And one of my friends, I don't know if he's been on the show yet, but anyways, one of my friends, Dizzy, put on his Facebook that and it was a very interesting comment. It's like we've had Trump, we had The Rock potentially going into this, we had Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor, and basically his line was, why not let politicians be politicians and let the people who are running Hollywood do the Hollywood thing. And it is like, from an understanding, I understand where he's coming from, but it's almost hopeful to a degree to think that people who care enough about their country can do something about it.
Yeah, what I would say to that is that the whole problem, like the whole reason somebody like Trump actually ended up going through, was that there is a big subsection that is sick of people that are bought and paid for by lobbyists and that type of thing.
Yeah.
Where supposedly somebody like Trump, who's apparently, independently wealthy enough to do his own thing and not be to the whim of anybody else, which is
Right.
obviously bullshit at this point. But like,
I think it's that is for anyone, right? That is for anyone.
well, yeah, but then you look at somebody like Oprah Winfrey and you're like, she is the richest woman in the world. There is no reason why the Koch brothers could be going to her and be like, hey, Oprah, we'll give you $100 million to like pass this, terrible
Whatever, yeah.
environmental regulations. And she'll be like, fuck you, I got $20 billion in the bank, so blow me.
Yeah.
Right? Which was the idea behind a guy like Trump for a lot of people.
Right.
But he's shown that that's not the way that he's operating. So I've always said that an outsider coming in would be a good thing if it's the right people. I think somebody like Bill Gates would be great. The thing is like,
So just
Yeah.
not to formalize it, but to say, would you have a preference whether for or against Oprah Winfrey doing presidency or being president?
it would depend on who else is going. I think there are politicians that are really great people. I think Elizabeth Warren would make an awesome president. So she would probably have my vote going forward.
So the funny thing is you'd be the only one in this room who would actually get to vote. We're all just other speculative
Yeah.
outsiders on
Yeah.
the situation.
Yeah.
So anyways,
Yeah,
going
it's true.
forward, noting
True,
that.
It's
but,
true.
As we said,
But it affects us
before,
all. I mean,
yeah, that's the thing.
it's
It
an
does.
empire.
Ameri-
The US is
American politics affects
Oh.
all
all
of
the
us.
world.
Yeah, especially here in Canada.
Oh,
So
yeah.
it would depend on, like, that's
Mhm.
the thing. For me, is it's not about teams or people I like or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
I've always been of the opinion that, when you're looking at a political race, everything resets from zero
Mhm.
as soon as that race starts, and whoever says and has the best platform that I agree with, I'll go with. That
fair.
tends to be, obviously, like, I have, opinions of my own that have me holding to sides generally.
Right.
Right?
Which is why they pick sides.
Yeah.
They pick Democratic.
I mean,
or
somebody
Republican,
like
whatever, because they already
mean,
agree with those.
But I also don't have an issue with a quote unquote celebrity necessarily being
Right.
a world leader.
Right.
If it's the right people, like
I agree. See,
somebody like The Rock would be a little bit too idiocracy for me, but he's actually he's super smart and he's a really articulate guy.
Totally.
And he is very popular, obviously, with a lot of different types of people.
Yeah. I feel like one of the things that I love The Rock, but I don't
President The Rock.
President The Rock. Could you imagine? Anyways, one of the things that I guess I don't see out of The Rock that I see probably coming out of Oprah Winfrey is Oprah Winfrey's been doing this whole, I wouldn't even see it does politics, but she almost does politics herself within, she had her own show that she was doing, and before that she was doing all kinds of humanitarian aid and all those other things before that. So in saying that, I don't want to say that I don't know about The Rock. To be honest, I don't know about what Dwayne The Rock Johnson's been doing since.
Well, he makes
whatever.
a lot of movies.
He just
That's
makes
all
a
he
lot
does.
of money in a lot of movies, and he's a very successful athlete, and whatever. He's always been
Entertainer.
successful, as an entertainer. So in saying that, I mean, sure, he could be good for, to be good for politics, but I feel like it would be more, I guess, understanding to have Oprah, because she's already dealt with this line of critics before.
Yeah, and I mean, generally, when you have a celebrity going through politics, they go through the process of it,
right?
Like they be a senator or something, or
And that's true
or
too.
a mayor or a governor.
Yeah.
Well, so
like Schwarzenegger was gonna do. But yeah, I'm not necessarily against Oprah Winfrey for president.
Yeah,
She's championed some stuff that I don't like in the past, like anti-vaccinations and just a lot of pseudoscience, Dr. Oz type stuff.
Sure.
That I don't like at all.
You don't like them? You don't agree with them?
No.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think she should be pushing stuff. Well, I mean, she hosts a daytime show or does or did. So she was making money with that stuff. So who knows if she came to the table again with I believe kids should be vaccinated and stuff like that, then that's fine. Then I'm cool with that. But so yeah,
I think it's interesting that we bring that up. I just think it's interesting because there's things that she was obviously putting on her show that I don't know. I don't have all the ins and outs and whatever goes on behind the scenes and stuff, because there's obviously, as we know, as even small time filmmakers here, there's things that go on behind the curtain that are happening that we don't know about, that we get the face value of something else that you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So how much of the stuff that happened in the face value of Oprah's show, like you say, for instance, Dr. Oz or something like that, whether or not, on camera we seem to have a good relationship with the two, was he forced in there by the producers to be on the show?
Yeah,
Was
well,
that
I think a
under
lot
her
of that-
discretion?
Yeah.
So in saying that, we don't know, even if she came to presidency or it started running or whatever, we don't know what her policies would be at this point.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Which
what I
very
meant, is just
interesting.
as long as she came to the table with with proper answers to questions about that stuff,
Right.
in my opinion, then yeah, I'd be game to be voting for her.
We do have a big list of American celebrities that went to as politicians.
Yeah,
and
it's not a long. It's not a short list.
I didn't know,
interesting.
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood went.
Yeah,
He's a
was
mayor or
of
something.
Carmel, California.
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that.
And if you look to the past, another president that was a celebrity is Ronald Reagan.
Yeah, he was actor.
It's funny because
So it's not such a stretch.
the film,
with Trump
with Robin
especially.
Williams, Man of the Year, where he's a comedian.
Yeah.
And he runs by himself and actually end up winning
With
the
Robin
Razzie-
Williams.
Yeah, with Robin Williams. Yeah.
What show is this?
Man of the Year.
Man of the
Oh,
He's
Year.
kind of
yeah,
like a
interesting.
Stephen
Never saw that.
Colbert type person that ends up
Yeah.
running for president.
It's
Interesting.
by the end, he actually didn't win, and it's a turnover. Anyway, spoilers alert, but this is 16-year-old.
Spoiler alerts,
Yeah.
guys. Spoiler
But,
alerts.
the point is, people have been doing this for over 40 years. So, this discussion actually is old. What I think is that we have to look it comes down to one thing, man. If the person that is in charge actually has a goodwill of doing stuff or not.
Yeah.
Right, that's fair.
Because the current leaders right now, it's like Donald Trump. It's a joke.
Yeah.
And it's a bad joke, you know.
Yeah, it's getting pretty old, man.
I mean, you get just released the book Fierce and Fury, and
What's
what-
this now?
it's a book about the Trump's White House.
Yeah, they brought an author in to write a book about
What's
his
going on
his
behind the
Trump.
scenes?
Like he told this author was like, hey, yeah, like let me write a book about what goes on in your White House, and this author had a history of just like eviscerating like Rupert Murdoch and a bunch of other like high level people,
whoever.
but they ended up letting him in, and he just
Wow.
destroyed them with this book that came out like a week or so
Yeah,
ago.
and
Wow.
Trump have been trying to stop the book, but it's a best-selling right now, and probably the guy has a lot
Wow,
of
this is-
Basically paints
lawsuits.
him as like a
This-
child.
This is
But-
like House of Cards.
Yeah.
But think about it.
Well, but like
It's
that
not-
guy's smart though. Like this, it's basically like
Yeah.
taking care of a kindergartner when you read through like
But
this
it
stuff.
is.
Oh,
It
wow.
is. If you look at like, we don't have to read the book. That's what I
it's
heard.
true. It
The guy
gets
went
all-
to Stephen Colbert, and I was just
I was
looking to the
watching it too.
interview, and the guy said, "Well, I didn't expect this book to be the bestseller because a lot of things that I wrote here, people know about it."
Yeah,
You
he said,
know
I thought
that-
everybody knew this already.
Yeah, you know that the president, it's very childish and
Interesting.
it is kind of like
Yeah,
taking care
the
of
excerpts, some of the excerpts I've read from it are pretty. Somebody posted a fake one about how he demands like a monkey channel that is like 24 hours a day, just gorillas like fighting each other. And I read through this and I was like, that can't be real. Like
And
that
it's
can't
not.
be real.
Oh,
And
thank
like
God.
it like right
Thank God
away
it
people are
wasn't.
like, no, it's a joke. And I was like, oh my God. But the fact that I for a second was like,
This could be believable.
no way. No way.
That's too bad.
I like it's really too bad.
That's too
So like from that type of perspective, and they're like Donald Trump is kind of a symptom of a larger issue though. Like these people, he's just this figurehead of this nonsense that's happening, but the real problem is that there are people that have been in politics for a long time that are not they're not making decisions for the people anymore. Like they're passing these bills that have like 25-30% approval ratings amongst the populace purely because like it's so obviously transparent that they are just placating high level donors that contributed to their campaigns. Like it
Right.
is so fucking obvious.
Yeah.
And like that's the type of thing that needs to be completely washed out of the whole system. So that's why people are like, well, somebody that's not been corrupted by this has to
Step in and
has
change
to step
something.
in and do something different here.
Right.
Which I get that. And I mean, like, again, like for me, a celebrity, that doesn't disqualify them. Like being an actor or something.
I think it's
If
funny.
that's your job, that doesn't disqualify you, you know? Like a lot of those people are highly educated.
Yeah.
And like if somebody like Stephen Colbert ran,
Yeah.
like
Or Jon Stewart.
he's been studying politics for 20 years, as a
Yeah.
comedian, but like that's like he's obviously in it,
Yeah,
And
but I
to
mean,
go
a criticizer isn't somebody because all he does is criticize things rather than actually implement things. So I think that's something interesting.
That's
to
a good
understand,
point.
Is everybody can criticize what other people are doing, but if they had the choice to make it themselves, what choices would they make?
That's a good point. And I think somebody like Colbert would be the first person to say like, no, I don't want to be doing that. Like I'm
Exactly.
happy with what my level is.
right.
But he can't deny that he is an impactor on the overall psyche of people. He's an impactor on me.
Sure,
You know,
yeah,
like-
he certainly has influence, but I think his influence comes with his criticism, and criticism only goes so far until somebody actually takes that criticism and actually takes it a step forward
Yeah.
to advance the positive end of what's going on, right?
Well, but you
can only
argue,
say so much until something's done about it.
Yeah, but you can argue that somebody like a Colbert, and this is like him in theory, so like
Mhm.
a John Oliver or a
Right,
Samantha Bee,
exactly.
like they're the same type of thing. You can argue that is their force. That's their force of influence. And
Right.
actually, I was going to bring it back to Oprah because I remember her saying, like a decade ago, when people were saying, "Oh, Oprah should run for president" and stuff.
Oh yeah.
I remember I remember a quote from her. I don't know if it's real or not, but I remember seeing a thing that's her saying, I don't need to run for president. I'm more powerful than the president of the United States as is." That's paraphrasing it. It's something like that.
Right.
But she has more influence as Oprah Winfrey than she ever could as president of the United States. Because like once you get into president of the United States, as Trump is quickly finding out, you can't just do whatever you want.
Right. That is
like
true.
there's checks and balances against what you're doing.
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, right. That's
Well,
what they're there for. But
so-
they're trying to fucking tear
so-
those down too. Like it's scary, man.
If you, I think the question comes down to, all right, we already had the worst celebrity being the president of the United States. Why not have Oprah? You know.
And that's essentially the idea of the. Yes, that does make sense. Why
I
not?
don't- you
have
shouldn't
Oprah?
come from
Why not
anything
balance
like
the,
that from
why,
a
balance
why
the
not.
pendulum? Yeah.
You shouldn't. I don't think you should ever come at politics with like a why not sort of shrug to it.
Well, but that's where we
But
came down to. We are.
But
we
that's
are
why
in the
we have to
bottom.
change it. Like
We
that's
are
the
in the-
true.
this is the lesson that we have to take from something like a Trump and be like, oh fuck. so that's what happens.
But
so
that-
maybe we
but-
should
but-
look at
but you
instituting
don't
actual
change-
third parties.
You
into
don't
this
change
system.
that for overnight, man.
No,
You
but
don't
you can change
that.
it.
You have
in
to
a,
change by educating people, and
I
that
agree.
takes a while.
Yeah, no, I totally
So,
agree.
You
But as
know,
far as changing the guard of the people who are in office, like that will be a quick change because a lot of those people are at retirement age or near death, you know, and the general ideals that they carry with them are fading away.
Maybe.
Well, they are
Probably.
though.
Yeah.
Like they are. I think that's why somebody, and I've said it before on here, I think that's why somebody like Trump came out, is because it's this harsh reaction from people who see an old way of life that they were used to getting pulled away from them because they were used to saying things like this. Well, nobody used to care if I said this about this person, and nobody used to care, you know, if again, yeah, like if I said like faggot or something like that, and like I used to be able to treat people differently, and I used to be able to you know, get that job because, you
I think
know,
it's
a bunch of
interesting
other
that you
people
relate
weren't in
Trump
the
to that,
job
because
pool.
I don't know. So there's one thing I don't know. I want to stipulate that I don't know because I've never met Trump personally, and I don't know him on a personal level. I don't know him in his personal life to such a degree, right? I only know him for what he says on the stand, and from what I've heard, not that the whole internet and the whole world have heard, but from what I've heard, I haven't necessarily heard him say anything terribly ignorant. And I say that but he says things that he needs to watch himself on to a degree, but I think that some people obviously have taken what he might have liberally said, and then they swing it so far the other way that there's these groups that misunderstand.
Twitter account. Just go into his Twitter account, and you're
That's
gonna see a
interesting.
lot of bullshit written down there.
Dude, like it's like even if you listen to or read transcripts of his phone calls and stuff with other world leaders and things, which are like they were available for all presidents. If you read these things, it's barely fucking English. Like it's
Interesting.
not
See,
understandable.
I haven't done the research to say that.
Yeah,
to
like
say that either.
The thing is like if you just watch a news cycle, regardless of what side it's slanted from, whether it's Colbert or whether it's
Fox
CNN
News.
or whether it's Fox News, you know, you can't just have one input anymore.
Right.
Because the news is like the politics, like it's bought and paid for,
Right.
And so the only people, ironically, at this point that are giving real news are like comedians and little bloggers that are just like they don't give a fuck about their reputations or their quote unquote credibility amongst, you know, people that they don't give a shit about. They don't give a fuck about the opinions of you know, high level Republican donors or Democratic donors or whoever. They don't give a fuck about what those people are going to try to do to them because they don't have anything to do to them, you know, like. And then, you know, as soon as they get into, actually the writer of the book mentioned this, as soon as they get into positions of like, well, working for the Wall Street Journal or working for New York Times or something like that, then they're in the White House and they have to come back every day. And so they can't be antagonizing them the whole time, you know, because they have to come back the next day. And what the author of the book mentioned was like, because Colbert asked him, like, why do you feel like you could be so honest with them and call out all this stuff that nobody else seems to be
'Cause he's not going
mentioning?
back
He's
in.
like, because I don't have to go back.
Yeah, that's true.
You know,
That's
I
interesting.
can go live in the fucking woods.
Yeah.
You
After
know?
all this happens, I can leave.
Yeah, and those people have to
Especially
come back
after
every
having
day.
a bestseller.
Yeah, I'm unemployed
He
by
said
then.
he
You
made-
can live whatever you
Yeah,
want.
he said he
Yeah.
made a point not to go into like the press room where they did all those interviews and stuff like that because he didn't want to be part of that. He didn't want to be part of the press, quote unquote,
Right.
you know. And what I found was interesting about his book too. He said on Colbert that kind of irked me a little bit initially was he was like, it's a version of the events that I believe to be true. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And then he went on to explain, well, it's because everybody in this White House, you know, Steve Bannon, all these people, they all had their own press secretaries, which is not a thing usually. And they all had their own sort of spin control group of people.
Right.
And so whenever he went and talked to people or people came and talked to him,
Right.
he was always getting some filtered version
Right.
of a story, you know,
Right.
like he gets like two people would go into a room and scream at each other,
Right.
and then they would come out and people that were in the room would say, well, you know, people that were in the room that were on Steve Bannon's side or whatever would say this about it, and people that were in the room that were on this person's side would say this about it. And so he has to kind of
Right.
filter through and try to figure out, well, this is what I see when I'm around every day, so I can kind of assume that this is pretty much what happened in there.
Right.
I think that
That's very interesting.
also one of the dangers to have a guy like Donald Trump around is because as much as he tried to show that he's strong, that's his weakness.
That he's strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wants to show that he's strong, and his
insisting all the
weakness
time.
comes from that, and it's very easy for us to see. Now,
Right.
you get a evil genius like Vladimir Putin,
Yeah, fuck.
and it's easy to manipulate a guy
Yeah.
like that. It's
Super
just
easy.
easy. It's just easy.
Because all you gotta do is like,
Just
hey,
man,
Don, yeah, you're
actually
so
really
good.
great, man. Man, you are great.
You're the best,
You're the
Don.
best president this country ever
Russia loves you, America loves you, everybody loves you, and he
Yeah.
just goes like, yeah, I know, thanks, yeah, I know,
had. Yeah,
the
yeah.
best. I'm the best, thanks.
Yeah.
Man,
No, yeah,
I
yeah.
saw the vice president. They're in this room talking about like this tax bill and stuff, surrounded by his whole cabinet. So there's like 20 some people in this room or whatever, and the vice president is sitting across from him in this huge table and just feeding him like unabashed, ridiculous praise, while Trump just sits there with his like arms crossed and just
Yes.
nodding along with it. And I'm like, the praise is like, it's so embarrassingly just wrong, and like it's like, oh, no president ever has had such respect as you, and no president has passed as much great legislation. Like, it's just like a bunch of nonsense, and he
feeding
just sits there nodding. And I'm like,
Interesting.
how are people not watching this and freaking the fuck out? Like, if this was happening in 1980s America, there would have been like pandemonium, because you have this like 1984 style figure who's like trying to control the media, trying to control the information that comes out. He banned the CDC, or not the CDC. Yeah, he banned the CDC from using certain words like science-based and fact-based. And like he did, man, like 7 words that were all and transgender and stuff. Like he banned them from using it. Like it's not. It's the opposite of like everything that the whole country was built on, and any sort of ties with Russia, like any sort of sniff of ties with Russia in any era in the U.S. that is not now.
And why is that a bad thing? So
Well, it's a bad thing because Putin is a bad person,
He's an evil genius.
and he's
evil
dude.
genius.
He's like.
yeah. He's a
He
genius,
sees
but
this.
he's evil.
He sees this opportunity to manipulate the leader of the United States to his will, to take down sanctions that are against them for human rights violations, to like vote alongside of them in UN parliamentary stuff, like just to do favors for Russia that like we have Russian friends and stuff, and like they'll be the first to tell you that it is not all hunky dory there as far as like high level corruption and stuff like that is concerned. Like it is, as bad as it can be for that. You know, personally, on a day-to-day level, Russians, I mean, they don't necessarily have a low quality of life, but there are things ingrained in what's happening there that are very, very freaky. And and Putin, man, like, he is the most powerful person in the world, especially now that he has the president under his thumb.
Pocket, yeah.
Part of that is because Donald Trump would go over to Russia when he was a real estate tycoon and like party his ass off and allegedly have like sex with hookers, have hookers like peeing on him and shit like that, and like stuff like that. That Putin like apparently like all has on tape, because he does that because he's former KGB. He tapes you because he's former KGB. And so all these types of things that Trump would have done as like a playboy are getting, he's getting blackmailed with, in my opinion, for the most part.
Huh. I don't know about all that.
Well, I hope we don't. To be honest, if we actually know about these things, it's because it went way too far.
Man, people are gonna go to jail in 2018 over this stuff.
What I think is that also it's
maybe not Trump, because they're
like
sorry to just one more thing before you come into Duval. The thing is there is the possibility that Trump has like no idea that this is happening. That he's just going along with Vladimir Putin's comments, with all the people's compliments around him, and the people that were under him, the Bannons, the Jared Kushner's, and like these people that were his chiefs of staff and stuff, were organizing all of this Russian interference in social media in the election and stuff like that. And so to give him plausible deniability, which makes sense. So it is possible that he didn't actually do anything, but there's no fucking doubt in my mind. Like if you read through spend 20 minutes reading through even like one article on the stuff that has happened, and the links to Russia and stuff, like, it makes your stomach turn.
You know, one thing that really blows my mind is that 1994, I believe.
84.
No. Bill Clinton's scandal.
Oh, I see.
Oh yeah, it was
Sorry.
like 96 or 98 or something.
Anyways,
yeah.
it's so
not even
much
close.
smaller than this.
I know, right?
And they almost kick him out of office.
They did. He was
How?
impeached.
Yeah, he was impeached.
He was
How-
impeached for having sex
how
with
the
his
hell?
secretary.
And what are the ties that are impeding, that are not actually
Yeah,
impeaching
that is
this
because-
guy? What's
interesting,
going on?
Well, it's because
I don't think it's necessarily like all this is like it's not quote unquote provable.
well, they're building a case on it now. Like that's the thing is like the special prosecutor for the Russia investigation, who's been they fired 2 prosecutors that were like Donald Trump himself fired the people that were investigating himself twice. Like this guy is just anytime somebody is like, "Oh yeah, actually we have to look into this," he's like, "Nope, you're fired." And anyways, basically the Republican Party, the people that have propped him up as their leader, they're the people that control the Senate and control Congress as far as just like amount of votes, right? And so as far as like there are articles of impeachment that have been filed like since the very beginning, but enough senators and Congress people have to approve of them in order for it to go through. And so obviously the Republican side is not approving the articles of impeachment.
But there are a lot of Republicans that don't agree with him.
Right, but they publicly don't agree with him, but then they don't vote for articles of impeachment, or they vote for these bills that they're putting them through. So publicly they're like, "No, this guy's an idiot," but then they go and vote along with this stuff.
But maybe they're getting something out of it as well.
Well, they all are. Of course they
they
are.
are.
Man, the tax bill, they went and they amended it like hours before passing it with fucking pens. The people didn't even read this like 800-page document on taxes that from an economic standpoint completely fucked their entire system, and for the sake of keeping a bunch of money in the hands of a few people, and they didn't quite have the votes for it. And then they wrote in legislation that helped a few senators get like tax breaks on properties they have, certain types of properties they own, or certain types of businesses they have. And then they magically decided, "Oh yeah, that's a good plan."
That works now.
Like
That's so
how people don't
interesting.
see through this shit
Yeah.
blows my mind.
Well, and that's true. It is interesting. I like watching. So I just relate everything. So the most of what I know that happens in politics is through Hollywood. It's through like shows like House of Cards or The West Wing or things like that. So I watch those shows and I see how how Hollywood, I guess, describes how it is in there. And I like watching House of Cards because it's very interesting on how manipulative the whole system really is, with who gets favors from whom and why the big thing why this small thing like, for instance, in House of Cards, he Frank is being sued something about this giant peach. And if this peach comes down, that means his presidential whatever will not be successful. It's one peach in one county in one place in the world that nobody actually even heard of until this guy showed up. And if it comes down, then all of it somehow falls apart
Because people won't vote for him in that county.
I know, it's just nuts.
Yeah.
So anyway, just like how small little things are, but like how big, like, big articles or big things will just get swept right underneath, or how. So for instance, I think I don't know necessarily, in my opinion, and this is my uneducated opinion, to be honest.
Man, I'm glad that you at least say that, because a lot of people don't.
Yeah, I think that maybe Trump is doing something, obviously behind closed doors, that he's showing you these big things that he's doing, or he's being an obvious idiot over here, and maybe behind a closed door he's making some backroom deals that are progressing things. So from my understanding, I've been talking to, so I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, I'll admit that, and because of that I kind of swing to Trump's side to a degree.
But how? Like, he's the least Christian person in the world.
But from the reports that I've had from very credible sources, he isn't. And
dude, he's like okay, sorry, I'll let you
anyways,
go.
yes, from what I've heard from the people that I've talked to, and I'm always on, I take the side, I take the side of, I always believe in the best in people. I try not to discredit them. From, obviously, Trump's been given a place of authority. Why? Because he's meant to be there to some degree. So because of that, I think that Trump is doing stuff that we don't even know about, and I think this happens with every president. Even people criticize George Bush.
Dude, he looks nice right now.
Yeah, but people criticized him and how he's a bit slower, or he's a bit whatever.
Yeah.
And but President Bush was always criticized for that, but he made the country band together in a time of crisis. And so anyways, there was things that he implemented that are really good that we didn't see until after his presidency, or after things happened.
The Iraq War, or
there are a lot of
wars that he
I
started.
don't know if you can really claim much lingers from Bush that was good. Like crazy NSA regulations and multiple wars and stuff like that. As far as a person goes, Bush looks good, but his policies were definitely not great.
So anyways, and so I'll be honest, like, I'm uneducated and I don't know all these things about this kind of stuff. But anyways, what I'm getting at is I don't think that the obvious things, I don't think the obvious things are necessarily the things that we should be looking at. It's the unobvious things that are going on that we don't realize that are probably helping the whole.
See,
of
this
America.
this is what I was getting at, was that, like, the tax plan thing.
Yeah.
That is the thing he was trying to, like, the whole Republican Party's like, okay, Donald Trump's distracting them with some stupid Twitter scandal that he said something stupid about. Let's fucking push through this tax reform so we can get it through. So before people can figure out what this actually is. But because they could do that before the internet, they're having a tougher time doing that now, because people like they tried to do the same thing with the healthcare bill. Right. And then all of a sudden somebody like Jimmy Kimmel jumped on it because his kid had a heart condition, and so he's wealthy enough to pay for his own treatment and stuff like that, but he found out through all of this stuff how fucked kids were going to get if this health plan went through. And so he started championing no, like call your Congress people, call your senators,
Yeah, I remember
whatever,
that.
and like and get this thing struck down. And they ended up doing that. So, yeah, those like that's what I'm saying. So like, I agree that he is a distraction. The things they're trying to push through, in my fundamental economic opinion, are just awful,
Well,
awful
they
things.
they just
awful things.
They just passed the bill of the internet.
Yeah, the net
neutrality.
neutrality thing is another issue.
And so, okay, I'm gonna change the subject.
'Kay.
I want to know a bit more about this net neutrality.
Sure.
I've only got a few minutes. Let's see how far I've got. Yeah, I've got a few minutes. So
'Kay.
let's keep talking about that. I want to hear about that because I've heard a lot about this is a bad thing, but this could be a good thing, but it's mostly like from the public's uneducated eye about this, it seems like a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a lot of people pushing for it that this should go through. Whether
Yeah,
I don't know
actually
whether
did.
it should or should not go through.
It
I don't
did.
understand the whole net neutrality. So if you guys understand it, I'd love to be explained.
Well,
to
basically,
me.
what it means is that, like before, internet providers couldn't pick and choose priority bandwidth. So something like Netflix,
Sure.
which technically uses internet infrastructure and stuff like that.
Right.
If, let's say, AT&T
Right.
wants to start their own quote-unquote Netflix thing,
Right.
they can do that
Right.
and just completely shut Netflix down. Like, slow it down. Slow down the bandwidth of internet that they're getting.
So
And
that
thus-
theirs gets favored over the other.
Right.
One. Okay.
And to the point that they could do that for anybody. You could pay for, I mean, we do pay for faster service,
Right.
but it would be more, well, Google can now pay,
Can lobby or something.
yeah, Google can now pay the internet providers a certain premium every month or whatever to have Google run faster than Bing on their service.
Oh, I see.
So now you're going to get into a situation where people that are starting up, people like us with
Right.
our podcast or whatever,
Right.
somebody like Joe Rogan
Right.
could potentially be like, I'm going to buy up extra bandwidth for my podcast because I can. I mean, he's probably whatever. And then I want everybody else. I want their internet to, or their bandwidth to be narrowed. So
Right.
people don't want to listen to the Slack line because it's choppy and shitty
Can't hear it.
and you can't hear it.
Right.
It loads slow.
So so if we had net neutrality, we did.
We
So that's the
did.
idea. So the idea is they're planning on
They
taking it
took
off.
it away.
They not playing.
They did.
Well,
in
they
the US.
did.
In the US.
They voted for it.
Yeah.
And so in Canada, do we have that?
No.
So we
Actually,
still have,
like they have come out saying like we're not going to do this.
okay, so we still here in Canada have
Right.
net neutrality.
But the thing is like we visit American sites all the time. So
Right.
this type of thing affects everybody. Everybody visits American sites all the time.
Sure.
Netflix is like all of those servers and stuff are out of. But like the thing is Netflix in Canada won't be able to do that.
Right.
But if you if you have a Hulu account or something like
Right.
that,
That could be
Hulu
affected.
Hulu could chop down
And so
Netflix's bandwidth or
why
vice versa.
is this a pro? So the question is, I guess,
Because the pro is those companies can make fuckloads of money doing this, and so they've
Interesting.
told all their there was even a thing. AT&T gave $1,000 to all of its employees if this bill went through.
oh, interesting.
Like, what do you think that means?
Yeah.
You're gonna like. People are just like,
You're
oh
bribing
yeah,
people
like
to-
$1,000 one-off to fuck us completely.
Interesting.
But people don't see that, right? Like you were
Mhm.
saying, people see $1,000 in their hand. People see their peach coming down. People
Right.
see
The small thing.
the small things, right? The
Right.
things that affect them personally,
Right. That's true.
which are not. That's not bad,
Right.
but all of this stuff affects us personally,
Mhm.
right? It's just, I mean, it's tough because something like net neutrality, it's boring. People don't understand it. That's why somebody like John Oliver is great to come along because he tries
Dumbs
to
it down.
tackle those things.
Yeah.
I don't know where that guy went. I'm worried he got like killed or
No,
something.
no. I think his program comes back in Mark or something.
Fuck, man, that's so long.
I know.
Yeah, so that's the net neutrality kind of in a nutshell.
Interesting.
If
Well,
anybody listening has comments on that or that I was wrong about anywhere,
Yeah,
please
no,
please
no, I
comment
guess
because
you-
I could be wrong. I don't know. But like for the most part I think I was
interesting,
kind of
because from
spot
what I understood about the internet and its craziness is that technically, we quote unquote pay for it
Mhm.
with advertising. So essentially,
with our data, with our
with what we watch. So essentially, we get Facebook for free. You don't have to pay for Facebook because Facebook
selling
gets-
your information.
is selling your information so that advertisers can go on your Facebook and
Mhm.
advertise their content on your specific Facebook. So therefore, the advertisers are paying to put that on there, and that's how the internet gets paid for.
Right.
Is through advertisements.
Right.
Which is why stuff like Vine,
Mm-hmm.
that whole website and that whole thing got shut down so quickly, is because they
There's no
couldn't
way to
advertise. They
advertise.
couldn't sell anything for something that's only 6 seconds long.
Yeah.
And that's why they got shut down, is because you actually the people aren't paying, quote unquote, but we're paying with our time and what
Right.
we're visually seeing,
Right.
right? And so in that's where I find this such an interesting situation, that they're going to do that as well as they're going to get bribed whatever information so that theirs are faster. So it's just more money, essentially.
Yeah, and like the thing, like when you think about it, so something like Facebook is a perfect example. If somebody started up a new networking site, like Snapchat, if
Right.
Snapchat had started under without net neutrality,
Right.
Facebook could have completely fucking destroyed it, because it could have been like, okay, well, we're Facebook. We are one of the most powerful tech companies in the world.
Yeah.
We would like you,
We wanna buy
AT&T
you.
and
Well,
Verizon
then if we
to.
buy you, then we crush you.
We would like extra bandwidth headed to Facebook,
Right.
and maybe I don't know if it's even legal under this term to be like, and we want you to specifically zone out that group.
Wow.
That's probably not legal. I'm sure that that violates like antitrust laws and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean that shit doesn't happen, as we know,
Right. It's super.
right? It's super convenient that Snapchat is running slow today while Facebook unveils their new Snapchat type app.
Well,
Right.
so things like that.
That's
and then
very
coming
interesting.
back to the Trump administration could only happen if you have like a weak guy like him,
Well, I think it's interesting that we
and
bring it
also
back
a
to the Trump.
capitalist.
Right. So
in
that's
this- in
that's
this,
exactly what I'm getting
because I'm not saying that capitalism is a monster or the money is bad, but
I'll say
I-
that.
I think that when you put someone to run the state as they would run their company, you apply laws that are not looking
That's
and aiming
interesting.
the well-being
That's
of
the
other
thing.
people.
Is
That's
like
interesting.
the
That's well
country
said.
is not a company.
Yeah,
People are not
Products.
products,
Yeah.
right? We need
consumers,
there are
yeah.
like the government is it's
They're for
It's-
the people, by the
its
people.
innate function
Yeah.
is to take care of the things
Yeah.
that our private enterprise doesn't want to pick up.
Sure.
That our private enterprise won't fill the gaps because it's not a profitable thing. That's why something like healthcare makes sense to have as a socialized thing. That's why
Right.
like road construction and stuff like that should probably
Isn't privatized.
isn't privatized. In some places it is. A lot of states are like that, right? Like we have toll roads and those types of things. Like that's what
Right.
those are. But if you're gonna talk about like the thing is since World War II ended, all these GIs came home from World War II, and they like the U.S. was very, very socialized. Like tax was like 65-70%,
Sure.
kind of like it is here. And it was to pay for all of these like war bonds and shit like that people were buying initially.
Right.
And now you have all these people coming back home from war
Right.
that need jobs, they need education, and
Sure.
like the GI Bill paid for all of these people to go through school and stuff,
Right.
and that still exists.
Right.
People are able to do that. So But since all that, and since actually Reagan came in the 80s, he wanted deregulation of everything. He thought, like many capitalists, pure capitalists think, that if you deregulate everything and let the free market, take it, then the free market will provide what is, most important to people, because people will go after whatever they feel is most important. And the free market will create competition, which will keep prices low and all this type of stuff. But when you have these types of issues, sorry?
Create innovation.
Yeah, and create innovation,
which is one of the major things I think.
It's
why
true.
It's so positive is because in a capitalist society, to a degree, there's innovation that you wouldn't get out of liberal society.
It's totally true.
Or socialist society.
Yeah, it's true for the most part. What the issue has been is they applied what is called trickle-down economics, which is something I'm sure you've heard.
Yeah, that doesn't work. But
It doesn't work, but that's what this is.
Right.
That's what this tax bill is. That's what the healthcare bill was. The healthcare bill was a tax bill disguised as healthcare.
Right.
To give a tax break to people that are, again, at the top, to cut out things like estate tax. And people say, oh, yeah, the Democrats want to cut the ability for you to leave wealth to your kids by cutting the estate tax. Like, no. The estate tax applies to, 0.1% of people with, millions of dollars in the bank. But people don't look into that. All they hear is, you can't leave money to your kids if you let the Democrats go, right? And so on these economic models, something like trickle-down economics works in theory. Because in theory, as your production of your company or something goes up, your cost of labor should go up. I.e., you should be paying your laborers more as your profit goes up. Because these economic models are built on finding equilibriums of production. They're not built on finding maximum profit. That's part of one of the curves that's in there. So people, companies, have taken this model and applied it to, let's just use it to maximize profit.
Sure.
And they don't really care how that throws off the other curves. They don't care about the equilibrium of their business. They care about the profitability of their business, which ultimately stretches out this gap, because instead of paying their employees more so their employees can participate in the larger economy, not just basic needs, they can buy video game systems, they can buy cars, they can buy TVs, shit like that. Instead of them being able to do that, as this economy grows, they're not growing as much as this company is, right? And all of this wealth gets concentrated into these top things. And people keep saying, oh, no, it'll trickle down. No, it doesn't. It just stays. Well, it could if they actually did it. But they don't. And so, and they say, well, we are putting it back into labor by giving themselves $100 million bonuses and stuff, because they're technically labor, CEOs and shit like that.
Sure.
This is how this stuff works, because people are innately greedy. It's just the way it is.
Just getting a hook in one of the things that you said, I would love. Can you imagine this? Just figure, if no one could actually leave anything to their kids. So you die?
And you couldn't give
I
any
think there are places in the world where that, China, I think, is like that. That's why
Because
they buy a lot of property over here, because they have to give any extra money to the government.
That's awful.
awful. Why, man? Can you, then suddenly everybody would have to actually work.
Bill Gates left nothing to his kids.
What?
Yeah.
That's
Bill Gates
horrendous.
gave pretty much all of his money to charity, and all he does now is work charity.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. I think that's
Because, man,
very interesting.
then everyone probably would have the same
Well, it goes along. It's the same.
need to work.
It's the same idea. That's the thing that drives me nuts about this, is that okay, well, if you're a true capitalist, then you should leave your kids with nothing, because that's what your whole
that's what you're
philosophy
saying.
is based
Aren't
on,
you
is it
saying
not?
that if you work a lot, you can be great?
That
So-
nobody should deserve handouts. That is the whole philosophy that you're going on, and yet you're not even
Yeah.
abiding by
So,
that for yourself or for your kids.
Socialism is bad if not for your kids.
I think that's the way it's supposed to be. I think that you're supposed to create. I don't know. Because I come from a Christian conservative Christian background, kingdom background. in my opinion, I think that having favor on specific people, such as my kids, my offspring, is something that is genuinely good.
I would agree, but like, okay, so there's two issues. So one is, well, from a Christian standpoint,
Yeah.
well, I'll get to that one second,
Sure.
actually. The first standpoint is you're having this problem and people are associating with themselves. So like when we say, well, you shouldn't be able to leave money to your kids, that's obviously like an extreme point of view.
Right.
But
Which is fun to think about.
yeah, it's an interesting
not
it's an
nice-
interesting topic.
Nice to actually play out.
But the idea that people could maybe only leave a certain amount to their kids or something like that, because you're having an issue where people with like hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank. Okay, we're not even talking about like millionaires. We're talking about like a very finite amount of people, like a handful of people that are just compounding wealth upon wealth because they're making interest upon interest. You know, they're getting dividend payouts from all these like crazy amount of stocks that they own, and it just builds and builds and builds. But there's a finite amount of money in the system. So when it builds, it pulls from the other end, right? Whatever these people are sucking, it can't be recreated at the bottom unless it just gets made, which causes inflation and all sorts of other problems.
Okay.
And so, again, like the idea of not leaving money to your kids is a little extreme, but the idea that, you know,
Where would it go then?
go into social services so that people that, you know, have people that can't afford to send their kids to proper schools, or, you know, just building proper schools in general, people, you know, that can't afford to have their kids in recreational activities, like those types of things can be more publicized.
Right.
Anyway, so it's
Okay,
kind of
so-
beside the point.
So sorry, just to follow that
Yeah.
thread just a little bit. So say we don't, and then all those social services are quote unquote met. Then we create a system at which nobody's working because everybody's being fed from the social welfare fund.
Well,
Not really.
that's not true. That's not
Not
true.
really. If you
Wha-
have,
wha-
if you have,
so then I want to
if-
get into a
if-
social worker
if
position because I get
everyone-
paid more.
if everyone,
No, that's not
no, if
necessarily true.
everyone has-
Nobody said that
if
social
where
workers are getting
everyone
paid
has
more.
health care in
Right.
in the country for free,
Right.
as they do in France.
We do
It
here.
doesn't mean it doesn't mean that they won't work for other stuff.
Right, but
People
what I'm
want
saying
to
is that
have
there's
stuff.
there's a huge amount more of money being distributed into everybody would want to be in government because they'd end up getting paid more.
No, that's-
because
No,
there'd
no,
be
no,
more
no.
money in the cash pot of one.
Yeah,
there's
but we have
always
the
going to
ability.
be more
We
money.
have the
People,
ability
not
to
for
control
people in
those
charge.
things. Here's the thing: is like as people in a
Mhm.
democratic society, we have the ability to say like, wait a second, social workers are getting paid too much or whatever. Teacher, you know, let's say it gets to like, let's not be, let's not pretend that social workers get paid a lot of money here.
No, they don't.
Like they could definitely use a bump up, especially at the expense of people that have billions of dollars in the bank. Like that's what I'm talking. I'm not talking again about like people that are millionaires that maybe have like, you know, a couple houses and like a boat or something. Like I'm talking about people like where you could take a fraction, you could take 90% of their money and like change the world. Like provide water to people in Africa, like provide food to people who don't have it, provide internet to people who don't have access to education. You could change the world with like one person's bank account and their life wouldn't even fucking change.
And that's your hook into Christianity.
Yeah, that is my hook into Christianity, because my question about that from a Christian conservative standpoint, like isn't it Christian to help your fellow man?
Oh, absolutely, I agree with that.
So where's the disconnect there?
I think that's I think that's a very interesting point. So, C.S. Lewis brings up, at the end of it all, we should all be essentially socialist. His point of view is that we should all be socialists at the end of it anyway, from what I've read, from my understanding of what he says.
Okay.
Is that at the end of it all, we'll all be socialists because we'll all be giving away our money to different charities and things like that, and we'll all be helping each other out. At the end of the day, you see somebody poor, you invite them over to you see something without food, you bring them into your house to feed them, right? Essentially.
When and where is that going to happen?
So the idea is that we all contribute to the idea that everyone is brought into this. So that's like the ideal utopian Christian to a degree from what his perspective is. I don't know if I agree. I don't know where I stand on it, to be totally honest. I'm still in this I'm still figuring that side out.
Yeah,
of
that's the
things,
point of all this, right?
right? And which is an interesting discussion to have right
Yeah.
now, right? but but in a certain regard, in a high regard, the potter makes the pots, right?
Mm-hmm.
The potter makes the dishes that are served as good china that you bring out for the wedding feast. But then there's the bowls and stuff that you use for everyday use.
Mm-hmm.
But who's to say? But the creator, which one goes which? Why is this? But they're both made from the same clay, essentially. So the idea is that there's favor on some people to do things that do great, wealthy things, and there's other people that are just used for the means of getting through things, and that's fair because that's how you see society. That's how.
But
you
you're
see
comparing
things.
a potter to a bull. You're comparing a person to livestock in that analogy.
Not necessarily.
Like, isn't the whole Christian ideal that we're all equal, or is that not?
I would definitely say no.
You would say no?
I would say that we're it's an interesting point. We are all created equal, but we are all given different favor.
And do you think that favor is just innate in people, or do you think that we earn favor? Because like I look at somebody like Donald Trump is a good example, because you mentioned earlier about like he's been given favor, obviously, to do something.
Right.
And as your belief in God says that, well, that's just God's plan, and that's fine.
To a degree. Yes.
But like when you look at in practice, like somebody like him, his life, and you know what he's done throughout his life as far as never really doing anything for anybody but himself. Like that has been his whole existence. Like and in the context of capitalism, that system rewards that behavior. It rewards being willing to stomp on other people. It rewards not being charitable and saving your money and not helping other people. It rewards keeping more for yourself and building off of that. Like, and there are good things to that, like you said, with innovation and stuff like that. But I think it's pretty obvious when you look at most of the people that end up in high power positions, CEOs and a lot of politicians and stuff like that end up being corrupt and things. Like it's pretty obvious that good people in those positions are kind of an exception, because like even like the CEO of a clothes company, CEO of H&M,
Right.
even if he's like one-on-one, like a nice guy, he still has to sign off on factory conditions in Bangladesh that kill people. Like, he signed papers that allow that, and whether or not he read that before doing it is beside the point.
I understand that. You should be doing everything with the most honest moral intentions, right? And so some people end up choosing to. So from my very probably uneducated but maybe arrogant even side of it is this is a story I heard. I don't know if it's true. I don't know how true it is, but the idea of it could be true. The idea that people were banning against Walmart from making all of these places in all over the world that they're impoverished communities, and they're giving them $1 a day or $1 a week or whatever it was they're getting paid, which is a ridiculous number to get paid from what our understanding is here in North America. If we got $1 a day, we'd throw our arms up and say that's not okay. However, in that community, it was the most that you would get paid, and if that Walmart branch didn't exist, those people wouldn't get paid, and they wouldn't have any means whatsoever to help themselves in doing that. Now, is it
people had means before money was a thing?
Sure, but now is it bad that they're not paying them a fair wage, or a fair wage to what our understanding is?
A fair wage to what? Yeah, it is bad.
Or is it bad that they don't even set up shop there and let the people there not have any means to collect any money? So it's just an interesting perspective.
for sure, and that comes up a lot when I talk to people like my dad and stuff like that. What I would say to that is, number one, like those people are stuck in that scenario.
Unfortunately, yes.
Because
they've
their world is kind of just joining this sort of global community of trade and stuff like that, right? And so like imperialists of old, you go in and you find where the cheapest goods is. Like that's just what this is, right?
true.
It's no different than England outsourcing their clothes manufacturing to the U.S. Because guess what? Labor was really, really cheap, right? It was free.
Right.
And so what we're perpetuating here as it's not necessarily a single CEO problem, those people at the top making those choices. We all make those choices every day, right? As a society, we buy shirts from Superstore, we buy shirts from Walmart, whatever,
Right.
because they're cheaper. Because in some cases, we work for places that maybe aren't paying our fair share. So we can't afford to buy clothes that are made in Canada because they're too expensive for us, right? And so we go and we buy clothes that are made in Bangladesh or wherever, because the labor is a lot cheaper. But here's the thing with those people is like this is their only method, like you said, of getting money, of participating in this economy.
Right.
So they don't have a choice. They don't. Like they either have that job or they don't, like you said. And again, like you said, other jobs, maybe no jobs, like they don't pay as well in those areas. But don't you think as a economic impactor, like did you know that Walmart would be the 5th largest trading partner with China if it was a country?
Wow.
So this is an economic impactor. They're not like
Totally.
mom and pop shop,
No, it's true.
right?
I totally understand.
So where's the justification? Like I said earlier with those production curves and
Sure.
building a productive company versus super profitable company. Where's the justification in not paying your labor properly? They could all pay their labor properly, and our T-shirts wouldn't have to go up a cent. The only reason our T-shirts have to go up a cent is because those people that are running this company want to keep their income to be the same. If they were okay with it, you know what? I'm okay with taking a 70% pay cut because I make $300 million a year anyways or whatever. My life won't change.
Well,
Right? And then we can pay our workers in Bangladesh a little bit more. And then maybe, as capitalism should go, people that are in that area want to fight for those jobs. And thus, they gain skills to get those jobs above each other.
Right.
Like, that's how this whole
System should.
theory is supposed to
Theory,
happen.
yeah, in theory,
but
yeah.
they're fucking up the theory.
That's true. That's an
One
interesting.
one
point.
thing about it is that if you think about just the system,
Well, they're brilliantly
Capitalism-
gaming the theory, actually.
capitalism
not fucking up.
isn't so bad if people weren't greedy.
If people
Right.
abided to what the rules
Because-
were.
Because one really bad thing about it is that capitalism really supports, like, it creates a space that that it can perpetuate very well. It can accommodate very well slavery.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it
Listen,
inevitably
if-
gets
if-
to that way
if
because
a
it inevitably
company-
gets to the
if a
smallest.
company was paying me, let's say we are both workers for the same company
Right.
and we are making $300
Totally.
a month. Well, you go along and in a capitalist society, you buy your stuff, I buy my stuff, and everything else. But if you are too greedy and there is a chance that you can snap my $300 and I work for nothing, and you, instead of being paid 300, you get 600, and
Right.
you are too greedy and you don't care, don't give a shit about me, you would do it. So
Right.
it accommodates very well a person
Who has
being a
that
slave.
amorality.
and the other one. Like, so my point is, as long as you are consuming $600, which is my part and your part, it doesn't matter if are two person or one person. As long as you are consuming that $600.
But I think it's
So that's
I think
why
it's
you have
interesting.
to you have to come up with laws and social laws to
Mechanisms.
mechanisms to actually say, hey,
Even the
Bryce,
penicillin.
this
Yeah.
guy is
Sure.
Like something like minimum wage is an interesting case because as a socialist, you would think I would be for minimum wage. Theoretically, I'm not for minimum wage. I'm only for minimum wage because these people aren't adhering to this proper labor code as far as paying their people at the bottom as their profits rise. If you did that properly, you wouldn't need minimum wage because people are making money according to the growth of their business that they're
Right.
working for.
And what? Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
One thing before I go,
not to confuse, I guess, my perspective with all of Christian perspective.
Right.
First of all,
Of course.
and also not to say that, like, one of the things is to say at the Christian perspective is that they would be acting in this way, and you guys are leaving out the moralistic part of it, that they should be acting also not just responsibly with their money in saving and earning, but also responsible in charitable in charity, that they should be giving and being responsible morally with that. So
What they can,
what
yeah.
they when they can, which should be all the time, as we're saying. So what we're saying here is we're leaving as soon as we get into greed and we get into this whole capitalistic society without moralistic perspective, then we get the society that we're talking about that is this terrible place. However, when we get into it, when we're using moral compass, even if what Joao was saying is I would take 600, I wouldn't. Or even if I did and he was working for free, I'd still give my 300 back to him because he deserves it, right?
Yeah, but the
So-
system isn't rewarding that. That's the point. The system's not rewarding you for that.
No, you should no.
The system
charity's
rewar-
never rewardable. I mean, you never
Right,
get
but if you're
rewarded.
trying to build a business out of whatever you guys are doing,
Right.
that's the system is not going to reward your charity towards Joao because he works hard. It's not charity, it's your proper valuation of a Joao. Yeah, it's an interesting perspective, and like you said, I don't want to paint everybody with brushes or anything. I love having these types of conversations. That's what this is for. Really, really interesting chat. We had another topic to get to, but man, we went off on it pretty hard. I liked it. Yeah, I would just like to thank Bryce a lot for sticking around and
Thank
having
you,
a good chat
Bryce.
with
so
us.
much for having me.
Yeah,
guys.
we would definitely have you back, and we'll chat more about whatever it is.
Whatever it
'cause
is,
yeah,
And more
it's nice,
funny
man.
stuff because we would love to hear more of your laugh.
Yeah.
Of course.
Tonight.
Yeah, there it is a little bit. Cool. So yeah, that is the Slackline with JWoww
Wow.
and the boss.
The boss is That's a coming. made-up dumb fairy tale name, you
Thanks again to Crooked Spies. Follow us on Instagram at the.slack.line and YouTube at the Slackline Podcast. And make sure you subscribe and like and all that fun shit. Yeah, and we'll try to get JWoww to do his job and repost. All right, thanks everybody for listening. Have a good day.